Hello dear students, today we will start chapter 5 from our book Flamingo, Indigo by Louis Fisher. Louis Fisher was born in Philadelphia. He served as a volunteer in the British Army between 1918 and 1920. Fisher made a career as a journalist and wrote for the New York Times, the Saturday Review, and for European and Asian publications. He was also a member of the faculty at Princeton University. This chapter is an excerpt from Louis Fisher's book, The Life of Mahatma Gandhi. The book has been reviewed as one of the best books ever written on Gandhi by Times Educational Supplement. This story is based on the interview taken by Louis Fisher of Mahatma Gandhi. In order to write on him, he visited him in 1942 at his ashram Sevagram, where he was told about the Indigo movement started by Gandhiji. The story revolves around the struggle of Gandhi and other prominent leaders in order to safeguard sharecroppers from the atrocities of landlords. Let's start the text and explanation of the chapter Indigo. When I first visited Gandhi in 1942 at his ashram in Sevagram in central India, he said, I will tell you how it happened that I decided to urge the departure of the British. It was in 1970. So here, the author explains about his first meeting with Mahatma Gandhi. He says that he first met Gandhiji in 1942 at his ashram, which was in Sevagram. It was located in central India. At the time, Gandhiji said that he would tell him about his struggle against the British, which first took place in the year 1970. He had gone to the December 1916 annual convention of the Indian National Congress Party in Lucknow. There were 2,301 delegates and many visitors. He says that in the month of December, in the year 1916, Mahatma Gandhi went to attend the annual meeting. Convention means agreement, a kind of meeting. So in the year 1916, Mahatma Gandhi went to attend the annual meeting of the Indian National Congress at Lucknow. And there were about 2,301 delegates. Delegate means representative. And other visitors also. During the proceedings, Gandhi recounted, a peasant came up to me looking like any other peasant in India, poor and emaciated, and said, I am Rajkumar Shukla, I am from Champaran and I want you to come to my district. Gandhi had never heard of the place. It was in the foothills of the towering Himalayas near the kingdom of Nepal. So Gandhiji, he recalled that a small farmer named Rajkumar Shukla came to him who was poor and thin like any other farmer of India. He requested Gandhiji to visit Champaran, a place in the foothills of the Himalaya mountain range near the kingdom of Nepal. And before that, Gandhiji had never heard the name of Champaran. Under an ancient arrangement, the Champaran peasants were sharecroppers. Rajkumar Shukla was one of them. He was illiterate but resolute. He had come to the Congress session to complain about the injustice of the landlord system in Bihar, and somebody had probably said, speak to Gandhiji. So he told Gandhiji that he was a sharecropper. A sharecropper is a farmer who gives a part of the crop as rent to the owner of that piece of land that he cultivates. He told him that because of an old agreement, many of the peasants in Champaran were sharecroppers. He had come to meet Gandhiji on someone's suggestion as he was determined to find a solution for the sharecroppers who were facing hardships due to this agreement. And he sought Gandhiji's help. Gandhi told Shukla he had an appointment in Kanpur and was also committed to go to other parts of India. Shukla accompanied him everywhere. Then Gandhi returned to his ashram near Ahmedabad. Shukla followed him to the ashram. For weeks he never left Gandhi's side. Fix a date, he begged. So this spelling Cawnpore, which is pronounced as Kanpur, is actually the British spelling for Kanpur, a city in UP. So after hearing his problem, Gandhiji told him that he had to visit Kanpur and some other parts of India due to prior appointments. Shukla went with him everywhere. After this, Gandhiji returned to his ashram near Ahmedabad. Shukla was always there with him for several weeks, begging him to fix a date to visit Champaran. Impressed by the sharecropper's tenacity and story, Gandhiji said, I have to be in Calcutta on such and such a date. Come and meet me and take me from there. So as Gandhiji was impressed with the tenacity, with the determination of that farmer, he said that he would be visiting Kolkata after a few months and that Shukla should meet him there, and then from there he could take him to Champaran. Months passed. Shukla was sitting on his haunches at the appointment spot in Calcutta when Gandhi arrived. He waited till Gandhi was free. Then the two of them boarded a train for the city of Patna in Bihar. There Shukla led him to the house of a lawyer named Rajendra Prasad, who later became president of the Congress Party and of India. Rajendra Prasad was out of town, but the servants knew Shukla as a poor yeoman who pestered their master to help the indigo sharecroppers. So they let him stay on the grounds with his companion Gandhiji, whom they took to be another peasant. But Gandhi was not permitted to draw water from the well lest some drops from his bucket pollute the entire source. How did they know that he wasn't an untouchable? So on the day that had been fixed, Shukla was eagerly waiting for Gandhiji in Calcutta. And when Gandhiji got free, they both took a train to Patna. Then they went to the house of a lawyer, Rajendra Prasad, who later became the president of India. When they reached there, he was not at home. Rajendra Prasad was not at home. But the servants allowed both of them to stay at the grounds because they knew Shukla. Because Shukla, he was a yeoman. He was a poor farmer who was having a piece of land, and he used to pester, he used to bother their master Dr. Rajendra Prasad to help the indigo sharecroppers. So in this way, actually he was assisting Dr. Rajendra Prasad. They didn't allow Gandhiji to draw water from their well as they took him to be an untouchable farmer and didn't want to pollute the entire water source. So untouchability, which was another one of the big issues of India, it was also interacted to Mahatma Gandhi in that place. Gandhiji decided to go first to Muzaffarpur, which was en route to Champaran, to obtain more complete information about conditions that Shukla was capable of imparting. He accordingly sent a telegram to Professor J.B. Kripalani of the Arts College in Muzaffarpur, whom he had seen at Tagore's Shanti Niketan school. The train arrived at midnight, 15 April 1917. Kripalani was waiting at the station with a large body of students. Gandhi stayed there for 2 days in the home of Professor Malkani, a teacher in a government school. So as Shukla, an illiterate farmer, was not able to provide Gandhi with adequate information, so Gandhiji decided to go to Muzaffarpur, which was on the way to Champaran, to get the information, complete information about the sharecroppers of Champaran. He sent a telegram to Professor J.B. Kripalani, who was a teacher at Arts College in Muzaffarpur, and Gandhiji had seen him at Tagore's Shanti Niketan school. Gandhiji took a train to Muzaffarpur that arrived at midnight on 15 April 1917, and Kripalani was already waiting there with his students. Gandhiji stayed there for 2 days at Professor Malkani's home, who was a teacher in a government school. It was an extraordinary thing in those days, Gandhi commented, for a government professor to harbor a man like me. In smaller localities, the Indians were afraid to show sympathy for advocates of home rule. The news of Gandhi's advent and of the nature of his mission spread quickly through Muzaffarpur and to Champaran. Sharecroppers from Champaran began arriving on foot and by conveyance to see their champion. Muzaffarpur lawyers called on Gandhi to brief him. They frequently represented peasant groups in court. They told him about their cases and reported the size of their fee. So according to Gandhi, it was a remarkable thing that a government professor was entertaining him, because in those days people in small localities were afraid of supporting those who supported home rule. Home rule, the government of a colony. So Gandhiji said this thing, that this was not safe for Professor Malkani. The news of Gandhi's arrival and the purpose of his mission spread through Muzaffarpur and Champaran very fast. Sharecroppers started to visit him because for them, Gandhiji was their champion. Muzaffarpur lawyers informed Gandhi about the whole situation as they represented various peasants in the court. They explained to him about their cases and the fee that they charged them. Gandhi chided the lawyers for collecting big fee from the sharecroppers. He said, I have come to the conclusion that we should stop going to law courts. Taking such cases to the courts does little good. Where the peasants are so crushed and fear-stricken, law courts are useless. The real relief for them is to be free from fear. Most of the arable land in the Champaran district was divided into large estates owned by Englishmen and worked by Indian tenants. The chief commercial crop was indigo. The landlords compelled all tenants to plant 3/20 of or 15% of their holdings with indigo and surrender the entire indigo harvest as rent. This was done by long-term contract. So Gandhi first, he scolded the lawyers for charging such high fee from the poor sharecroppers. Then he decided that it was useless to go to the courts as the judiciary was not doing anything good for the peasants. They were also following British rulers only. He said that as long as the peasants were suppressed and full of fear, it was useless to visit the courts. Fear-stricken means full of fear. He wanted to set them free from fear first. Most of the cultivable land, arable land, cultivable land in the Champaran district was owned by Englishmen who had divided them into various property. The peasants were occupants of these lands. Englishmen forced the peasants to cultivate indigo on 15% of their land and to give the crop to them as rent. And all this was done through a long-term agreement. Presently, the landlords learned that Germany had developed synthetic indigo. They thereupon obtained agreements from the sharecroppers to pay them compensation for being released from the 15% arrangement. So while all this was going on, the landlords came to know about the chemical indigo being prepared in Germany. It was a blue color dye made with chemicals. Now the landlords started demanding money from the poor peasants in order to cancel their agreements as they no longer required the indigo plantation. The sharecropping arrangement was irksome to the peasants and many signed willingly. Those who resisted engaged lawyers. The landlords hired thugs. Meanwhile, the information about synthetic indigo reached the illiterate peasants who had signed and they wanted their money back. So this sharecropping system was already very irksome. Irksome means annoying. So many of the peasants paid for the cancellation of the agreements. But there were a few who resisted, who opposed this thing. So they hired lawyers. But now the news about the synthetic indigo is spread and reached the uneducated peasants also. So they came to know that's why these landlords, they cancelled the agreements. So now these illiterate peasants, they also started demanding their money back. And at this point, Gandhi arrived in Champaran. He began by trying to get the facts. First, he visited the secretary of the British Landlords Association. The secretary told him that they could give no information to an outsider. Gandhi answered that he was no outsider. Next, Gandhi called on the British official commissioner of the Tirhut division in which the Champaran district lay. The commissioner, Gandhi reports, proceeded to bully me and advise me forthwith to leave Tirhut. Gandhi did not leave. Instead, he proceeded to Motihari, the capital of Champaran. Several lawyers accompanied him. At the railway station, a vast multitude greeted Gandhiji. So, Gandhiji, when he reached Champaran, he decided to gather the facts. And for this, he visited the secretary of the British Landlords Association. The secretary did not answer him because he could not give any information to an outsider. At this, Gandhi replied that he was not an outsider. So after this, he went to the commissioner of the Tirhut division. Champaran district was under Tirhut division. The commissioner not only threatened Gandhi, bully means threatened. He not only threatened Gandhiji but also suggested him to leave Tirhut forthwith. Forthwith means immediately. To leave Tirhut immediately. But Gandhiji, he did not leave. Instead, he proceeded to Motihari, the capital of Champaran, and several lawyers accompanied him. At the railway station, a vast multitude greeted Gandhiji. A vast multitude, a huge crowd greeted Gandhiji. He went to a house and using it as headquarters, continued his investigations. A report came in that a peasant had been maltreated in a nearby village. Gandhi decided to go and see. The next morning he started out on the back of an elephant. He had not proceeded far when the police superintendent's messenger overtook him and ordered him to return to town in his carriage. Gandhi complied. The messenger drove Gandhi home where he served him with an official notice to quit Champaran immediately. Gandhi signed a receipt for the notice and wrote on it that he would disobey the order. In consequence, Gandhi received a summons to appear in court the next day. So in Motihari, Gandhi went to a house which was later converted into his headquarters. He started his inquiry into the matter and Gandhi decided to visit a nearby village when he came to know about an incident of ill treatment with a peasant. He was on his way on an elephant when the superintendent's messenger stopped him and ordered him to return back to the town. Gandhi followed him and the messenger took him back to his home. He was then served a notice which ordered him to quit his movement and return back. Gandhi received the notice and signed a receipt on which he wrote that he would not obey the order. And in consequence, Gandhi received the summons to appear in court the next day. All night, Gandhi remained awake. He telegraphed Rajendra Prasad to come from Bihar with influential friends. He sent instructions to the ashram. He wired a full report to the viceroy. Morning found the town of Motihari black with peasants. They did not know Gandhi's record in South Africa. They had merely heard that a Mahatma who wanted to help them was in trouble with the authorities. Their spontaneous demonstration in thousands around the courthouse was the beginning of their liberation from fear of the British. So after receiving summons from the court, Gandhi could not sleep the whole night. He telegraphed, wired means telegraphed, Rajendra Prasad and asked him to come to Bihar and get some influential, powerful people along. He sent some guidelines to the ashram in Ahmedabad and also telegraphed the whole matter to the viceroy. Viceroy is the governor. Next morning, Motihari was full of peasants as they wanted to support Gandhi. None of them knew about his works in South Africa. They only knew that there was a Mahatma who wanted to help them and was in trouble due to the officials. They started gathering in front of the courthouse, and this incident was their attempt of setting themselves free from the fear of the British. The officials felt powerless without Gandhi's cooperation. He helped them regulate the crowd. He was polite and friendly. He was giving them concrete proof that their might, hitherto dreaded and unquestioned, could be challenged by Indians. The government was baffled. The prosecutor requested the judge to postpone the trial. Apparently, the authorities wished to consult their superiors. So as the crowd had gathered in front of the court building, it became very difficult for the officers to control the mob, to control the crowd. They had to take Gandhi's help to regulate the crowd. Gandhi politely told the officials that if they would misuse their power, then there were chances that they would have to face a revolt from the Indians. As the situation was getting tougher, the lawyer requested the court to postpone the trials by some days. The authorities decided to first consult the higher authorities. Gandhi protested against the delay. He read a statement pleading guilty. He was involved, he told the court, in a conflict of duties. On the one hand, not to set a bad example as a lawbreaker. On the other hand, to render the humanitarian and national service for which he had come. He disregarded the order to leave, not for want of respect for lawful authority, but in obedience to the higher law of our being. The voice of conscience, he asked the penalty due. So Gandhiji objected against the delay in the proceedings of the case. He read a statement in front of the court in which he accepted his fault in a very humble manner. He said that he was not a lawbreaker and did not want to go against the law, but his duty towards humanity has a greater influence on him and it forced him to do so. And that's why he was in Motihari. He refused to leave the town because he wanted to help the sharecroppers as it was his moral duty. The magistrate announced that he would pronounce sentence after a 2-hour recess and asked Gandhi to furnish bail for those 120 minutes. Gandhi refused. The judge released him without bail. When the court reconvened, the judge said he would not deliver the judgment for several days. Meanwhile, he allowed Gandhi to remain at liberty. The magistrate asked Gandhi to arrange for bail because he was going to give his judgment after 2-hour long break. Gandhi refused to seek bail and later on he was released without it. When the court proceedings restarted, reconvened means restarted, the judge refused to deliver any judgment for many days to come. He allowed Gandhi to remain free. Then Rajendra Prasad, Brij Kishore Babu, Maulana Mazharul Haq and several other prominent lawyers had arrived from Bihar. They conferred with Gandhi. What would they do if he was sentenced to prison? Gandhi asked, why? The senior lawyer replied, they had come to advise and help him. If he went to jail, there would be nobody to advise and they would go home. So then many popular, well-known lawyers like Rajendra Prasad, Brij Kishore Babu and Maulana Mazharul Haq, they came from Bihar to help and advise Gandhi. Gandhi asked, if he was sentenced to jail, then what would be their course of action? So one senior lawyer replied that they were there to help him out, and if he was sentenced to jail, then they would return back. What about the injustice to the sharecroppers? Gandhi demanded. The lawyers withdrew to consult. Rajendra Prasad has recorded the upshot of their consultations. They thought amongst themselves that Gandhi was totally a stranger, and yet he was prepared to go to prison for the sake of the peasants. If they, on the other hand, being not only residents of the adjoining districts, but also those who claim to have served these peasants, should go home, it would be shameful. So when Gandhi came to know about their decisions, that in case of prison to Gandhi, all the lawyers would return to their homes. So Gandhi asked them to help the sharecroppers who were facing unfairness. Rajendra Prasad and other lawyers concluded that if Gandhi could go to jail for the people of their area, although he was a stranger, then they should also follow him, as they had always claimed to serve these farmers and fought their legal battles too. So they accordingly went back to Gandhi and told him they were ready to follow him into jail. The Battle of Champaran is won, he exclaimed. Then he took a piece of paper and divided the group into pairs and put down the order in which each pair was to court arrest. So when Gandhi heard them, Gandhi assured them that their struggle for Champaran farmers had been won. Then he divided the group into pairs of two and made a sequence in which they had to voluntarily surrender in the court. Several days later, Gandhi received a written communication from the magistrate informing him that the Lieutenant Governor of the province had ordered the case to be dropped. Civil disobedience had triumphed, the first time in modern India. Gandhi and the lawyers now proceeded to conduct a far-flung inquiry into the grievances of the farmers. Depositions by about 10,000 peasants were written down and notes made on other evidence. Documents were collected. The whole area throbbed with the activity of the investigators and the vehement protests of the landlords. So after some days, the magistrate sent a letter to Gandhiji in which it was written that as per the orders of Deputy Governor, the case against him had been taken back. It was for the first time in modern India that a peaceful protest against the government had been won. Gandhi and other lawyers carried on with an in-depth investigation into the injustice with the farmers. Statements of about 10,000 farmers were recorded and various documentary proofs were collected. The whole area vibrated with the activity, the investigators and the protesting landlords. In June, Gandhi was summoned to Sir Edward Gate, the Lieutenant Governor. Before he went, he met leading associates and again laid detailed plans for civil disobedience if he should not return. Gandhi had 4 protracted interviews with the Lieutenant Governor, who as a result appointed an official commission of inquiry into the indigo sharecropper situation. The commission consisted of landlords, government officials and Gandhi as the sole representative of the peasants. So in June, Gandhi was called up to be present before Deputy Governor Sir Edward Gate. Before meeting him, he met his chief supporters and made plans for civil disobedience in case he did not return. Gandhi had 4 long interviews with the Lieutenant Governor, and in this interview, he led to the formation of a commission that inquired into the indigo sharecropper situation. The commission had landlords, government officials and Gandhi, who was the only spokesperson, only representative for the farmers. Gandhi remained in Champaran for an initial uninterrupted period of 7 months and then again for several shorter visits. The visit, undertaken casually on the entreaty of an unlettered peasant in the expectation that it would last a few days, occupied almost a year of Gandhi's life. So Gandhiji, he remained in Champaran for 7 months and then he also made several short visits later. His visit on the request of a peasant. You remember that illiterate peasant Shukla? On his request, he visited Champaran, and that was presumed to last a few days, but it took a year. The official inquiry assembled a crushing mountain of evidence against the big planters, and when they saw this, they agreed in principle to make refunds to the peasants. But how much must we pay? They asked Gandhi. So the official inquiry didn't favor the planters. Therefore, they agreed to pay back to the farmers. But they questioned Gandhi regarding the amount to be repaid. They thought he would demand repayment in full of the money which they had illegally and deceitfully extorted from the sharecroppers. He asked only 50%. There he seemed adamant. Writes Reverend J.Z. Hodge, a British missionary in Champaran who observed the entire episode at close range. Thinking probably that he would not give way, the representative of the planters offered to refund to the extent of 25%, and to his amazement, Mr. Gandhi took him at his word, thus breaking the deadlock. So moneylenders had thought that Gandhi would ask for the full payment of the money which they had taken from the farmers forcefully and deceitfully. But he asked for only 50%, and his decision was very firm. A missionary, Reverend J.Z. Hodge, who had a close watch on the matter, reported this. The planters offered to pay only 25% then, as they thought it would be rejected by Gandhi. But Gandhiji immediately accepted this also and broke the deadlock. This settlement was adopted unanimously by the commission. So when Gandhiji accepted this settlement, the commission also accepted this without any opposition. Gandhi explained that the amount of the refund was less important than the fact that the landlords had been obliged to surrender part of the money and with it part of their prestige. Therefore, as far as the peasants were concerned, the planters had behaved as lords above the law. Now the peasant saw that he had rights and defenders. He had learned courage. So Gandhiji explained that he accepted 25% also because the amount of money was not important. But by giving money, the planters had bowed down to the farmers and had given away their honor too. The planters who earlier behaved as if they were above the law now had to abide by it. This made the farmer realize their rights and give them courage to fight for them. Then events justified Gandhi's position. Within a few years, the British planters abandoned their state, which reverted to the peasants. Indigo sharecropping disappeared. So this incident and many other events, they had proved Gandhi's position. The British planters had to leave their property within the next few years. These properties were returned back to the farmers and indigo sharecropping soon came to an end. Gandhi never contented himself with large political or economic solutions. He saw the cultural and social backwardness in the Champaran villages and wanted to do something about it immediately. He appealed for teachers, Mahadev Desai and Narhari Parekh, two young men who had just joined Gandhi as disciples, and their wives volunteered for the work. Several more came from Bombay, Pune and other distant parts of the land. Devadas, Gandhi's youngest son, arrived from the ashram and so did Mrs. Gandhi. Primary schools were opened in 6 villages. Kasturbai taught the ashram rules on personal cleanliness and community sanitation. So, Gandhiji was not satisfied by achieving political or economic solution. He sought to remove the cultural and social backwardness of Champaran. Gandhi wanted to do something to remove the backwardness in the villages of Champaran, and that is permanently. Some permanent solution he was seeking for. So he requested teachers such as Mahadev Desai and Narhari Parekh and their wives to teach the villagers, because he realized this thing, that education is the main source to remove untouchability and other social issues. So both of them were followers of Gandhi. Many other volunteers came from Bombay and Pune to join them. Then Mrs. Gandhi and their youngest son Devdas arrived from the ashram for their help. Then primary schools were opened in 6 villages where Kasturbai used to teach the ashram rules on cleanliness and community sanitation. Health conditions were miserable. Gandhi got a doctor to volunteer his services for 6 months. 3 medicines were available: castor oil, quinine and sulfur ointment. So the health conditions of the people of Champaran were very poor, very pitiable. So Gandhi got a doctor who offered his services free of cost for 6 months. As there was limited budget and limited scope, so only 3 medicines were available: castor oil, quinine and sulfur ointment. Anybody who showed a coated tongue was given a dose of castor oil. Anybody with malaria fever received quinine plus castor oil. Anybody with skin eruptions received ointment plus castor oil. Then Gandhi noticed the filthy state of women's clothes. He asked Kasturba to talk to them about it. One woman took Kasturba into her hut and said, "Look, there is no box or cupboard here for clothes. The sari I am wearing is the only one I have." So then Gandhi noticed that the women of the area used to wear dirty clothes. When Gandhiji tried to know the reason through his wife, he was told that those were the only saris each of the women had. Because one woman, she took Kasturba into her hut and showed that there was no storage to keep other saris, as they were not having many saris. They were having only one sari and every day they were wearing the same, and that's why their dress or their saris were filthy. During his long stay in Champaran, Gandhi kept a long distance watch on the ashram. He sent regular instructions by mail and asked for financial accounts. Once he wrote to the residents that it was time to fill in the old latrine trenches and dig new ones, otherwise the old ones would begin to smell bad. The Champaran episode was a turning point in Gandhi's life. What I did, he explained, was a very ordinary thing. I declared that the British could not order me about in my own country. So while Gandhiji was in Champaran, he kept a long distance vigil on the ashram. He used to send letters of orders regarding financial matters. Once he wrote to the locals that it was time to dig new latrine trenches, new holes, as the old ones had started giving foul smell. So see, people were not aware even the sanitation or the smell in the area. That thing was also told to them by Gandhiji. The Champaran incident changed Gandhi's life. He said that he had done a regular thing. It was not that he was doing big thing. These were the small things, okay, small steps. So he said that he had done a regular thing. He had put his point across that the Britishers could not order him in his own country. So whether he is a resident of this state or not, but the whole country was his own country, and no Britisher, no British ruler could give him order what to do in his own country. But Champaran did not begin as an act of defiance. It grew out of an attempt to alleviate the distress of large numbers of poor peasants. This was the typical Gandhi pattern. His politics were intertwined with the practical day-to-day problems of the millions. His way was not a loyalty to abstractions. It was a loyalty to living human beings. In everything Gandhi did, moreover, he tried to mold a new free Indian who could stand on his own feet and thus make India free. So this Champaran Satyagraha was not an act of opposition. It was an attempt to help out the poor and tortured farmers. This was Gandhi's way to solve issues. without violence. His politics was knitted up with the everyday problems faced by the millions of people. He did not aim at the fulfillment of ideas. Rather, he was concerned for the people. So he was taking the problem of everyday like discrimination people were facing in their life, sanitation problem, illiteracy, and corruption. So for all these things, he was struggling. He was fighting and teaching them way to stand on their own. The basic idea was to serve humanity and make a free Indian who could stand for his rights. Early in the Champaran action, Charles Freer Andrews, the English pacifist, who had become a devoted follower of the Mahatma, came to bid Gandhi farewell before going on a tour of duty to the Fiji Islands. Gandhi's loyal friends thought it would be a good idea for Andrews to stay in Champaran and help them. Andrews was willing if Gandhi agreed, but Gandhi was vehemently opposed. He said, "You think that in this unequal fight it would be helpful if we have an Englishman on our side? This shows the weakness of your heart. The cause is just and you must rely upon yourselves to win the battle. You should not seek a prop in Mr. Andrews because he happens to be an Englishman." So Charles Freer Andrews, who was a peacemaker, visited Gandhi before going on a tour of duty to Fiji Island. Gandhi's loyal friends wanted Andrews to stay at the ashram and help them, but Gandhi refused. He said they did not need the help of Britishers as it showed a lack of trust in their own abilities. He asked them not to seek any help from Mr. Andrews as he was an Englishman. He had read our minds correctly. Rajendra Prasad comments, and we had no reply. Gandhi in this way taught us a lesson in self-reliance, Indian independence, and help to sharecroppers were all bound together. So later on, Rajendra Prasad stated that Gandhi had read their thoughts and his reply served as a lesson of self-sufficiency. For them, being self-dependent, free, and helping the farmers, all these acts of Gandhi were interconnected. He actually wanted all the Indians to be self-dependent.